The Grillithians were a species that had known nothing but darkness for millennia. Their planet, Vraek, orbited a sun that burned with a ferocity that would annihilate any life exposed to its full wrath. Vraek's surface was a barren wasteland, scoured by intense radiation and lethal heat. The Grillithians, however, had evolved underground, in vast, intricate networks of caves that shielded them from the deadly light above. Their society was built on this aversion to sunlight, with their technology, culture, and even religion rooted in the safety of shadowed environments. To the Grillithians, the sun was a force of destruction, and they assumed that any intelligent species would share this view. But their understanding of the universe was shaken when they made contact with humanity. Earth, a planet bathed in sunlight, was home to a species that thrived in conditions that would have been fatal to the Grillithians. Rumors of the humans' remarkable resilience had spread quickly, sparking both fear and curiosity among the Grillithians. An invitation was extended to the humans to visit Vraek, with the purpose of discussing a potential alliance. The Grillithians were wary but intrigued. How could a species survive, let alone prosper, under the relentless glare of a star? The High Council, which governed Vraek, was eager to learn more about these strange beings from the light. They believed that understanding humanity's resilience could offer new insights into their own survival. When the human delegation arrived, the Grillithians were immediately struck by their appearance. Unlike the heavily protected Grillithians, who wore layers of shielding even in the relative safety of their underground cities, the humans were dressed in simple clothing. Their skin was exposed to the air, with no signs of the protective gear the Grillithians relied on. The sight of these sun-bathed ambassadors was unsettling to the Grillithians, who viewed the sun as an omnipresent threat. Dr. Hiran, the Grillithian Minister of Science, was among the first to greet the human delegation. He had spent his entire life studying ways to protect his people from the dangers of their sun, and now, standing before him, were beings who seemed completely unafraid of it. "Your resilience in open environments is astounding," Dr. Hiran commented, his voice betraying his disbelief. "How do you survive such relentless exposure?" Captain Sarah Beckett, the leader of the human delegation, smiled slightly as she exchanged glances with her team. "It's natural to us," she replied. "Our species evolved under the light of our sun. Without it, we wouldn't exist." The Grillithians stared at the humans in silence. The idea that any species could not only survive, but rely on the sun for their very existence was almost beyond their comprehension. For the Grillithians, light was synonymous with death. The notion that it could be a source of life was entirely foreign to them. As the formal talks began, the Grillithians carefully observed the humans' behavior. The meeting rooms were dimly lit by Grillithian standards, as their eyes were adapted to darkness, and bright light was both painful and dangerous for them. Yet the humans appeared perfectly comfortable in these dim environments. They made casual remarks about how the lighting reminded them of twilight on Earth, a time of day that was, to them, calming and serene. The Grillithians found this both fascinating and unsettling. The discussions progressed smoothly, but the Grillithians were eager to learn more about the humans' unique physiology. They proposed a visit to one of their surface facilities, a place where they conducted experiments in the brief periods when their planet's sun was visible. This facility, located at the edge of one of Vraek's deep crevasses, was equipped with powerful shielding to protect against the deadly rays. The Grillithians were curious to see how the humans would react to this environment. Captain Beckett and her team agreed to the visit without hesitation. The Grillithians were both impressed and anxious. For them, even venturing close to the surface required extensive preparation. Protective suits were meticulously donned, with every inch of skin covered and every joint sealed. The suits had built-in sensors to monitor radiation levels and provide real-time adjustments to the shielding. When the humans arrived at the facility, they once again shocked their hosts. Instead of the elaborate suits the Grillithians wore, the humans simply stepped out onto the sun-drenched platform with only minimal protection. They shielded their eyes from the brightness, but otherwise seemed unfazed by the intense light that would have killed a Grillithian in minutes. "Is this the intensity of light you usually experience?" Dr. Hiran asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Captain Beckett took a deep breath, seeming to enjoy the warmth. It's nothing compared to a summer's day on Earth, she replied casually. The Grillithians were left speechless. They had spent their entire existence fearing the light, building their civilization around avoiding it at all costs. Yet, here were beings who not only survived it, but seemed to take pleasure in its presence. For the first time, the Grillithians began to question their long-held beliefs about the dangers of the sun. As the humans walked around the facility, examining the equipment and commenting on the harshness of the environment, the Grillithians could only watch in stunned silence. The humans were not just resilient, they were practically invulnerable to what the Grillithians considered a force of nature. This realization was both humbling and terrifying. The visit concluded with the humans returning to their ship, leaving the Grillithians to ponder what they had witnessed. The High Council convened an emergency meeting to discuss the implications of this new information. If the humans were so different from them in this fundamental way, what other surprises might they hold? Could an alliance with such a species be beneficial, or would it expose them to dangers they could not foresee? The Grillithians were left with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear. The humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. Their ability to withstand the sun's deadly rays was just the beginning of what the Grillithians would come to learn about these extraordinary beings. Chapter 2. The Trial of Light. The demonstration that took place on the surface of Vraek became the talk of the planet. The Grillithians were a species whose very existence depended on avoiding sunlight, yet they had just witnessed humans standing in the open, unprotected, under a sun that could kill a Grillithian in seconds. The news spread like wildfire, and soon every corner of Vraek was abuzz with rumors and speculations about the humans' incredible resilience. The High Council, composed of the most influential leaders on the planet, decided that a more formal demonstration was necessary. The Grillithians were a cautious species by nature, and they wanted to fully understand the extent of the humans' abilities before making any decisions about an alliance. They proposed a public demonstration where the humans would be exposed to varying levels of sunlight in a controlled environment. The arena chosen for the demonstration was a massive structure built on the surface of Vraek, a place that was normally off-limits to the general population. The arena was shielded by layers of artificial shadows, with an array of powerful luminescent devices positioned around it. These devices were capable of simulating different intensities of sunlight, ranging from the dim glow of twilight to the full fury of a solar storm. For the Grillithians, exposure to even a moderate level of this light would cause severe burns and cellular decay. The very idea of standing in such light without protection was unthinkable, but the humans agreed to the demonstration without hesitation, further cementing their reputation as a species that thrived under conditions others would consider suicidal. On the day of the demonstration, the arena was filled to capacity with Grillithians, eager to witness the spectacle. The High Council members were seated in a special viewing area, their faces hidden behind protective visors that filtered out harmful rays. Dr. Hiran was in charge of the proceedings, and his voice echoed through the arena as he addressed the crowd. Today we test the claim that these humans are immune to levels of light that would reduce us to ash, he announced. We shall begin at what we consider mild exposure and increase it incrementally. Let us observe how they fare. Captain Beckett and her team stood in the center of the arena, their expressions calm and confident. The lights around them began to brighten, slowly at first, transitioning from the familiar dimness of Grillithian habitations to the soft glow of twilight. The humans remained unfazed, chatting among themselves as if they were waiting for something more to happen. As the light intensified, the Grillithians in the audience began to shift uncomfortably. The light was now at a level considered dangerous, one that would cause harm to any unshielded Grillithian. Yet the humans stood there, arms crossed, looking completely at ease. The whispers in the crowd grew louder, filled with both awe and disbelief. Finally, the lights reached a level that was considered lethal for any unprotected Grillithian. The arena fell silent, all eyes on the humans. Captain Beckett raised her hand to signal that it was enough. "We're not just resistant," she declared, her voice carrying across the arena. "We evolved under conditions even harsher than this." The crowd erupted in a mix of gasps and murmurs. The Grillithians were struggling to comprehend what they were witnessing. The humans had just stood in light that would have disintegrated most species, and they had done so with casual indifference. For the Grillithians, this was nothing short of miraculous. It was as if the humans had unlocked some secret of the universe that had eluded them for millennia. But what truly left the Grillithians in awe was what happened next. Captain Beckett reached into a small pack and pulled out a pair of sunglasses. She slipped them on and turned to Dr. Hiran with a smile. "Now it's just comfortable," she said. The arena was filled with stunned silence. The Grillithians could scarcely believe their eyes. To them, sunlight was a force of nature to be feared and respected, something that required layers of protection and careful planning to avoid. Yet, here were these humans, treating it as a mere inconvenience, something that could be dealt with by putting on a simple pair of tinted lenses. The demonstration ended with the humans walking out of the arena as casually as they had entered it. The Grillithians were left to ponder the implications of what they had just witnessed. If the humans could withstand such extreme conditions with ease, what other abilities might they possess? What other dangers could they face that the Grillithians would not survive? The High Council convened once again to discuss the results of the demonstration. There was a growing consensus that an alliance with the humans could be beneficial, but there were also concerns. The humans were clearly a powerful species, one that could operate in environments that would be fatal to most others. Could the Grillithians trust a species that seemed to defy the natural laws they had always known? Dr. Hiran was among those who supported the idea of an alliance. "We have much to learn from them," he argued. "Their technology, their resilience, it could open new doors for us, help us unlock potential we never knew we had." But others were more cautious. "What if they are hiding other abilities?" one council member asked. "If they are this resistant to light, what else might they be capable of? We must proceed carefully." In the end, the decision was made to continue discussions with the humans, but with an added layer of scrutiny. The Grillithians were not ready to fully embrace a species that was so radically different from them, but they could not deny that humanity's resilience was both impressive and potentially valuable. As the Grillithians returned to their shadowed cities, they were left with a profound sense of unease. The humans had shown them a world that was both terrifying and full of possibilities. For a species that had spent its entire existence in darkness, the idea of stepping into the light was both thrilling and terrifying. But the question remained, would they have the courage to take that step? Chapter 3. The Unseen Advantage. The Grillithians were a species that prided themselves on their meticulous planning and careful calculation. Their aversion to sunlight had shaped every aspect of their civilization, from their architecture to their military strategies. They had developed advanced shielding technologies and specialized weapons that allowed them to fight in the safety of darkness. But after witnessing humanity's resilience, they began to realize that their reliance on shadowed environments might be a weakness rather than a strength. The High Council ordered a thorough analysis of humanity's technological capabilities. The Grillithians had always assumed that any species capable of interstellar travel would have developed similar methods for avoiding sunlight. But the humans had taken a completely different approach. They didn't avoid sunlight, they harnessed it. Dr. Hiran and his team were granted access to one of the human starships orbiting Vraek. The ship, named the Resolute, was a sleek, angular vessel designed for both exploration and combat. As the Grillithians boarded the ship, they were struck by the abundance of light inside. The corridors were brightly lit, a stark contrast to the dim, shadowy halls of Grillithian ships. The humans seemed completely at ease in this environment, while the Grillithians found themselves squinting and shielding their eyes. Chief Engineer Malik greeted the visitors with a warm smile. "Welcome aboard the Resolute. I understand you're interested in learning more about our energy systems." Dr. Hiran nodded, his curiosity piqued. "Indeed, we've heard that you rely heavily on solar energy. How do you manage to convert something so dangerous into a reliable power source? Malik led them to the ship's engineering bay, where massive solar arrays dominated the room. The arrays were designed to capture and convert sunlight into energy at a staggering efficiency rate. We've developed technology that allows us to harvest sunlight even in deep space, Malik explained. These arrays can absorb light from stars at distances that would be useless to most species. The Grillithians were both impressed and bewildered. They had always viewed sunlight as a destructive force, something to be avoided at all costs. But the humans had taken that very force and turned it into a cornerstone of their civilization. To the Grillithians, this was nothing short of revolutionary. As they continued the tour, the Grillithians learned more about humanity's approach to technology. Unlike the Grillithians, who focused on minimizing exposure to harmful elements, the humans had developed ways to thrive in harsh environments. Their starships were equipped with systems that could operate under extreme heat, radiation, and gravitational forces. The Grillithians realized that humanity's resilience was not just a biological trait, it was a mindset. Captain Beckett, who had joined the tour, sensed the growing admiration from the Grillithians. Our ability to harness sunlight isn't just about survival, she said. It's about adaptability. We've always believed that the challenges we face can be turned into strengths. The same could be true for your people. Dr. Hiran considered her words carefully. The Grillithians had always taken a conservative approach to their development, focusing on perfecting what they already knew rather than exploring new possibilities. But humanity's example showed them that there was another way, a way that involved embracing risk and seeking out new frontiers. The High Council began to seriously consider the benefits of an alliance. The humans' technology, particularly their energy systems, could revolutionize Grillithian society. If they could learn to harness their sun's energy the way the humans did, they could transform their world from a place of shadows into a place of light. But with this potential came new fears. What if we're opening ourselves up to dangers we can't control? One council member asked during a closed session. The humans have lived under the sun for eons. They're accustomed to it in ways we are not. Could we be setting ourselves up for disaster by trying to emulate them? Dr. Hiran countered, "We're not suggesting we abandon our ways entirely, but there's value in learning from those who have faced challenges different from our own. The humans have shown us that our fears may be limiting us. Perhaps it's time we confront those fears." The debate within the High Council was intense, but ultimately, they decided to proceed with cautious optimism. They would explore the possibility of integrating human technology into their society, starting with small-scale experiments in controlled environments. If successful, these experiments could pave the way for a broader partnership. But even as they prepared to take this step, the Grillithians couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. The humans were so different from them, not just in physiology, but in mindset. They were bold, adaptable, and seemingly unafraid of risks that the Grillithians found overwhelming. Could these differences lead to misunderstandings, or even conflict? Or could they be the foundation of a new era of cooperation and shared growth? The Grillithians knew they were standing at a crossroads. The choice before them was not just about technology. It was about their identity as a species. Would they continue to live in fear of the light, or would they embrace it and step into a future filled with new possibilities? Chapter 4. A New Dawn. The alliance talks between the Grillithians and the humans reached their climax with a historic meeting on the surface of Vraak. For the first time in Grillithian history, a delegation would step out from the safety of their underground cities and stand beneath the unfiltered light of their sun. The humans had provided advanced protective gear based on their knowledge of sunlight resistance, allowing the Grillithians to experience a world they had only ever feared. The chosen location was a plateau near one of the planet's deepest crevasses, a place where the sun's rays were known to be particularly intense. For the Grillithians, this was the ultimate test. Could they confront their deepest fears and find a way to thrive in an environment that had always been their greatest enemy? Dr. Hiran led the Grillithian delegation, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and dread. He had spent his entire career studying ways to protect his people from the sun, and now he was about to face it head-on. As he donned the human-designed suit, he couldn't help but marvel at the craftsmanship. The suit was sleek and lightweight, with layers of specialized materials that filtered out harmful rays, while allowing just enough light to pass through for the wearer to see. Captain Beckett and her team were already waiting outside, their figures silhouetted against the harsh light. They stood with an ease that was almost enviable, as if the blazing sun was nothing more than a mild inconvenience. Dr. Hiran took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come, and stepped out into the light. The sensation was overwhelming. The brightness was unlike anything he had ever experienced, even through the suit's filters. The heat pressed down on him, and his instincts screamed at him to retreat back into the safety of darkness. But he held his ground, focusing on the steady rhythm of his breathing and the reassuring hum of the suit's cooling systems. The rest of the Grillithian delegation followed, their movements cautious and hesitant. They stood together, bathed in light for the first time in their lives, and gazed out at a world they had never truly seen. The rocky landscape stretched out before them, shimmering under the intense rays, and for the first time, they could appreciate the beauty of their own planet's surface. Captain Beckett walked over to Dr. Hiran and stood beside him. "It's different, isn't it?" she said softly. "There's something humbling about standing in the open like this, exposed to forces beyond our control. But there's also a kind of freedom in it." Dr. Hiran nodded slowly, still adjusting to the experience. "We've always seen the sun as our enemy," he replied. "But perhaps we were too quick to judge. Maybe there's more to it than just danger." The humans had arranged for a small ceremony to mark the occasion, with both delegations exchanging symbolic gifts. The Grillithians presented a beautifully crafted obsidian artifact, representing the unity of their people and their enduring connection to the shadows. In return, the humans offered a solar-powered device that could generate light and energy from even the faintest rays, a symbol of their ability to turn challenges into strengths. As the ceremony concluded, Captain Beckett addressed both delegations. "Today, we stand together in a place that once represented fear and isolation, but now it's a place of new beginnings. Our two species are different in many ways, but we share a common drive, the desire to overcome adversity and reach for something greater. This is just the beginning of what we can achieve together." The Grillithians listened with a mixture of hope and apprehension. They were stepping into uncharted territory, both literally and figuratively. But they also recognized that this alliance offered them something they had long yearned for, a way to move beyond the limitations they had placed on themselves. The High Council formally approved the alliance, setting the stage for a series of joint ventures. The first project would focus on adapting human solar technology to Grillithian conditions, with the goal of eventually harnessing their sun's energy to power their underground cities. If successful, this could transform their society, allowing them to expand their technological capabilities and improve their quality of life. But the significance of this moment went beyond technology. For the first time, the Grillithians were beginning to see the light as something other than a threat. They were starting to view it as a potential source of growth, a force that could be tamed and used to their advantage. This shift in perspective marked a profound change in their culture, one that would have ripple effects for generations to come. As the sun began to set on the horizon, casting long shadows across the plateau, Dr. Hiran removed his visor and allowed himself to truly look at the sky. The colors were vibrant and alien, a spectrum he had never experienced before. It was both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder that there was still so much he didn't understand. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid of what he didn't know. He felt a spark of curiosity, a desire to explore beyond the boundaries he had always accepted. The humans had shown him that fear could be a catalyst for discovery, not just a reason to retreat. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, Captain Beckett turned to Dr. Hiran with a smile. "Welcome to a new dawn, Dr. Hiran. I think we're going to accomplish great things together." Dr. Hiran returned her smile, feeling a sense of optimism he hadn't felt in years. "Yes," he said quietly, "I believe we will." And with that, the Grillithians took their first steps into a future where light was no longer just a source of fear, but a path to something greater.